Hi, everybody. It's Tuesday night broadcast. So glad to see you watching or hoping that you're watching. Really excited to delve into our topic tonight. Just want to remind you, please, as always, to go to justify.org, JUSTDEFY.org. Check out the website or check us out on all of our Facebook feeds. Of course, you'll be able to see this on Facebook as well as YouTube. It'll be archived. But when you go to the website, I'm in particular going to call you to do something right now between now and the end of the year. As we go into 2022, we are going to see a ton of elections and a lot of candidates next year, very important elections. In the state of Colorado, we have county races, we have congressional races, we have state house races going on next year. It'll be a very big election here. And as we move into that, excuse me, I'm hoping that we can get our small donor committee funds built up. So if you don't already know, this as a reminder, Justify has a small donor committee. This is a great opportunity for people to donate some money that will go to candidates who are in line with our values and who have been vetted. And the small donor committee is really great because it's basically a $50 donation. That's the maximum donation to the committee. It doesn't prohibit you from donating to other committees or directly to candidates as you see fit. But it's a great opportunity to help us build up some funds so that early in the year next year, when candidates are getting started, if we have some good candidates who need some help, we have some opportunity to help them out as they get their candidacies going. So again, get on that website and click on the page for Small Donor Committee, click the button, say, yes, I will donate $50. That's probably less than most people would spend going out to dinner. And help out some of these candidates next year. So anyway, for tonight, I'm really excited to have Mayor of Brighton with us, Greg Mills. And so our topic tonight is going to be really looking at the importance of local leadership. I know that there has been a lot of talk about that throughout the state, throughout the nation. I think that folks are starting to awaken to the fact that local governance is really important to their day-to-day life. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Mayor Greg Mills and have him tell you a little bit about himself. Hey, Greg.
Hey, well, thank you, Cynthia. Thank you for having me on and providing this platform to speak. As was mentioned earlier, my name is Greg Mills. I'm the mayor of Brighton. I've been mayor for the last couple of years. I got elected to be on the city council about 4 years ago. And then when the mayor position was vacated 2 years ago, my peers elected me to finish the term. And so a little bit about me, my family and I have lived in Brighton for the past a little over 10 years. I got 3 boys, ages 19, 18, and 14. Wow. So all teenagers, busy household. 2 of my boys, my 19 and 14-year-old, have developmental disabilities, a condition called Fragile X syndrome. And so it kind of keeps us, like I said, busy at home. My wife's busy with that. And we really want to be involved in our community. And one way to do that, I read about 4 years ago, just before I decided to run for council, I read about some needs to get on your local city council. And I thought, well, I've always followed politics. I've always followed what goes on not only in Washington, but what goes on in our state level. But I hadn't really followed so much what goes on our real local level. So I decided to pick up a packet from the city clerk's office. This would have been summer of 2017. And I sat on that packet for a couple days. And then I talked to my wife about it. I figured my wife's just going to say, nope, you can't do it. That's just too much. And she said, I'll also go ahead and support you in that. So her and I went around, got our petition signed. We didn't know what we're doing at the time. All we did was just go to our different neighbors and got a bunch of signatures and hoping that would be enough. And, out of about 33 signatures I got, 26 were valid. So you only needed 25. So that was good. So I got elected to be on the city council. I had to go through 2 rounds, and we'll get into that later. I had to go do a runoff to do that too. So I'm the runoff expert right now. But
yeah.
On my profession side, I'm in the insurance world. I work with a brokerage called J&R Insurance. We help people with everybody's personal lines insurance needs, your home, your auto, your business, your commercial insurance, anything to do with, what your Allstate or State Farm person would do. But we have a variety of companies within our portfolio. We're not just married to one. So we help.
Awesome.
So that's what
and your practice is in Brighton, correct? Your agency?
Yeah. Our office is domiciled in Brighton, but we're licensed statewide. So we got people. I just wrote a homeowner's policy for a client I know that's in Fruita. We go everywhere.
That's awesome. That's awesome. But you work right in your own community, which is really nice.
I'm sitting in that office, which is only 1.5 miles from my house. So I don't have to go far.
That's great.
But I do go out and travel and see the clients once in a while. I've been known to even go down to Colorado Springs to see a client. So it's not a big deal. So
awesome. Greg, I think there's something that I want to have you clarify, and this is important. Maybe a lot of people know this, but maybe there are some people that don't know this. And so it's just worth saying, I think. So it's important to understand that you're talking about your career in insurance and being the mayor simultaneously. And I think a lot of people might know this, but it's important to say that your mayor position is considered part-time, right?
Yes, it is.
And so that is the case in most municipalities, I would think, throughout the state. Most mayoral positions are what they consider part-time, and they're usually either a stipend, maybe in some small towns there may not be much pay at all that goes along with it, but it's certainly not, you're not doing this for the money.
Oh gosh, if anybody did this for the money, I think they're better off working at Del Taco right now. Yeah, there's only 4 full-time mayors that I know of in the state of Colorado. So really, people are doing this as a public service to serve you. They're taking time out of their workday, or maybe some of them have been retired, and that's fine. But we shouldn't all be represented by just retired people. It should be anybody that's willing to represent you.
Right. And it's not only time out of work, but it's time away from your family. I mean, having been a candidate involved in politics and doing what I do, there's time away from your family to serve. And I think that's important to say, but it's good for people to understand kind of the landscape of being a mayor in most cities in this state. And unless you live in Denver or what, I'm assuming the 3 others are, maybe Boulder, Colorado Springs or something. There are full-time positions.
It's Denver, Colorado Springs, Aurora, and Pueblo. That is all.
Well, there you go. So other than those 4 big areas, if you want to serve as a mayor, you're going to be doing that for a stipend, and in addition, probably to your work, which is commendable, I think. And I think that's I honestly believe that is the way that our founding fathers had expected public servants to be, that they would be professionals, working people, parts of the community, that type of thing, who for a term serve in office. They literally are serving the community. They are not there to, become millionaires or anything else. And of course, we've seen that become problematic at the higher levels of government, particularly at the federal level.
Yes.
Where we have people that don't have term limits, and they are certainly going into office with not very large checkbooks and coming out as millionaires. And so that's unfortunate. But I really feel like for people who like the spirit of what our governmental system is supposed to be about, local government and local leadership really, I think, embodies that as well. And so if you're someone who feels like wants to promote that spirit of that government, how it should be, local positions are really important to you, and that's maybe a place where you could feel like you're representing that.
And you make a great point about term. In Brighton, we have term limits of 2 terms. I don't know of all the cities, but a lot of them will have some sort of a term limit. And I think it's important that you serve and you move on.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's true. And I think most cities, I know the city I live in, it's 2 terms and that type of thing as well. And most of them are probably like that. In Colorado, you know, even our state Senate and our state House positions have term limits.
Yes.
So at the state level, we have those limits. The times when you see that start to go away, then, like I said, is at the federal level. So let me ask you this. What are some of the challenges of local governance, local leadership? As a mayor, what are some of the challenges that you face that might be unique to being a leader at that level, you know, at that kind of micro level?
I believe some of the biggest challenges is getting people to care. I've been out campaigning since before Labor Day, and there's a lot of people, besides the people that just don't answer the door, there are people that just wave you out and don't care. And I've run into people that say, well, I don't really vote during these little off-year elections or these small local races. And I said, well, why don't you vote? I mean, this is a time when this local elections, I believe, really, really matter, probably more than what's going on in Washington or what's going on in Denver. That's the most direct area that's representing you.
Right.
And, you know, nobody ever comes up with a good answer to that. I've told people that'll throw away their ballots, and I've told them, well, then I guess you threw away your voice. And then I tell them how to go get another ballot if they'd like after having a conversation with them. But
and that's great. And that is a real tribute to you if you have a conversation with someone who's thrown away their ballot and then they go ask for a replacement, because that means that you had that impact on them to help them re-engage in that system.
Well, especially if they threw away like, what if there was a ballot initiative that they cared about, and I went in and said, well, that was on the ballot and you threw away your voice. And they just look at me like I have worms coming out of my ears. So.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is. And being as involved in politics as I am and all the things I do with helping with so many candidates and being part of the GOP and justifying things, I think that one of the challenges, you know, that I see for local leadership and getting involved in local leadership is just people's misunderstanding. They really just don't oftentimes know exactly what their local leaders really are responsible for. Either they don't recognize the importance of it, or in some circumstances, I think that they overestimate the power that our local leaders have. You know, your mayor, you know, of your normal average metropolitan city like Brighton or whatever it be, Westminster, Thornton, any, you know, I'm just naming other cities close to Brighton. These are not the people who are, you know, out there deciding to build the wall or to, you know, pass some federal taxation or things like that. And I find that sometimes people either they have the expectation that local leaders should have that, or they're completely the opposite. They feel like it has no meaning.
We're your representatives that set policy for your city.
Right.
It's important you vote for good representatives, because otherwise your city staff is going to run the city if you don't. Right.
Exactly. And we've seen that be a problem in other cities where the city staff is running you know, kind of a runaway train
Right.
over
And
what's going on.
that leads into my opponent. She's a former 48-year city employee.
Mm-hmm.
Is she going to represent the best interest of the residents of Brighton, or just the best interest of her former colleagues?
Right. Well, and that is the other reason why it's important for our local leaders to not be so commingled with
Mhm.
with the staff, or having had their career commingled with being staff, because I do feel like the transition oftentimes from um, staff member to what should be a bipartisan independent leadership, um, can get really muddied when that happens.
Yep.
So tell us something that you've done since you've been on council or as mayor that you're proud of, something that you think, wow, I'm really proud to have been able to be part of that.
Well, I'm very pleased to have worked with the council the last 2 years. That's mostly together on issues. We don't have so many 5-4 decisions that are being made. I've seen that in previous councils and in other cities as well. They don't
Yeah.
get along. They don't come together on issues. I'm very pleased that we have a whole council that supports our law enforcement. You hear about other cities that have very split decisions on how they feel about their law enforcement. I feel I'm the person that's able to bridge the divide between new residents and established residents. There's a lot of new people that, not only in Brighton, but every city has a bunch of new residents. I mean, look at all the people moving here the last however many years.
Yeah.
Colorado is a melting pot of new residents. you know?
But Brighton, I think, has some particular challenges in that not only has it grown, but unlike some other cities, well, I mean, let me see if I can say this. Other cities have gone through this challenge too, I think, a little bit, but that challenge is a little bit more distant in the past. For example, some of the cities that are more landlocked and who have been more predominantly residential housing, kind of what we consider our traditional residential housing. I mean, I think if I'm assessing this right, in Brighton, you guys are not only, having that challenge of maintaining for the existing residents, but accommodating the growth. But I think it's going a lot more from more of that much more rural or almost farm areas, that type of thing, to your more densely populated um, neighborhood structures. Is that true?
We have a mix of some dense areas, and we still have areas that have half to full acre lots. We have farmland that's still surrounding Brighton. To get to Brighton, you actually have to go through either a neighborhood that's got a lot of space to it, or you're going through farmland to get here. When you're driving between Thornton, Commerce City, North Glen, you don't know if you're in whatever city if you're not from around here. In Brighton, you can tell when you're in Brighton. We have that distinct gateway that you are coming into Brighton.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so I'm going to bring up the elephant in the room here. You
Okay.
are right now facing a runoff race
Mhm.
for your position
Yep.
that you won by what, 12 or 13% margin
Out of 12,
um,
yeah.
during the election on the 2nd. And I was shocked to hear about um, this mayoral race where the front runner, the winner, yourself, had this great margin of winning, and then all of a sudden now having to go through a runoff. And you said you had to do this when you were getting onto the council as well.
Mhm.
And so, can you tell everybody a little bit about what that challenge is and how
Mhm.
you're tackling that?
So, um, first of all, I got 47% of the vote.
Wow.
My opponent next to me got 35%. So it's about a 12% difference. And then the third opponent got about 18%. In Brighton, you must get 50% plus one in order to, so you get a majority in order to win an election, whether it's for the mayor or for the city council, whatever it is. So when you get 3 or more people in a race, it's hard to get that 50+%. Even 4 years ago, when the previous mayor was running for his seat, and he's a person that's lived in the community almost all of his life, he even had to go through a runoff. He got about 47, 48% and went through the same process where he was way ahead of the other two, but still did not hit that 50% margin. So it's really hard to get there.
Right.
And like I said, this is my second time doing this. So when I was running for council, I got about either 38 or 39%, and the other guy got 32, and the other person got 20-something%. So I went through that back then too.
Well, I can imagine it's a little bit disheartening to miss that by, just that 3% and be so close. It's certainly challenging. And so this is part of your election rules in Brighton, or what is this part of there?
It's part of the city charter. Every home rule city has a charter, and that was placed into the charter. I believe the last charter revision was in 2001. So I think that's when that was placed in there. And I've spoken to one individual that was on that charter committee, and he's pretty proud of having that, because it shows that you're going to get that exact majority, whoever's elected into the mayoral position or the council position. Now, I'm going to argue though. I don't know of anybody with a margin of 12 points that has been able to overcome getting second place and still getting that seat. There's about 2 races for council positions where someone got second place but overturned that, but they had such a narrow margin from their first place opponent, it was definitely in the horizon.
Right.
Now, when you have a 12-point margin, a lot of people, and I've talked to so many people as I've been walking around the last couple weeks, they feel like we're throwing money away.
Yeah. Well, and that's what I was going to say is that, and certainly I wouldn't expect you to take a hard stand on that at this point, because you're going through this process, and as a candidate and as the mayor, you'll probably need to reserve your judgment until you can get back into office and really assess the situation. But I was thinking, man, this really seems like a lot of extraneous money spent by the city for you're basically holding 2 elections.
Yep.
And I would guess it's happening 80 or 90% of the time.
It does. We're going to spend probably about 50 grand on an election.
Yeah.
And for, you got to make sure the people are represented. I get that. Right. This is very hard on the people that are voting, because they're confused. A lot of them wonder, well, I already voted. Why am I getting another ballot?
Right.
This is hard on our city clerk's office, because they have to run the election, unlike before it was the county that ran the election. So It stresses a lot of people. It puts a lot of people in limbo, because you're trying to plan for the new year ahead, and it takes some time to get that going. And now we still got to do an election and see where that goes.
Right. It's almost this silly kind of, I don't want to say lame duck period, but kind of this just weird waiting period. So, is there any potential to make another update to that charter and potentially get rid of this cost ineffective process? And I get the whole idea of democracy, of course. Little education here. We are not a 100% democracy in the United States. We are a constitutional republic where we elect by winning vote at all levels of government representatives to represent us. It sounds like there was someone at some point and, that was confused about really, how we should be operating. And I'm guessing that the city is not the only one that has something like this. It's possible this could be like this. We're a large nation of a lot of municipalities. So, but yeah, it sure would be nice for the people of Brighton if this could be reevaluated and see if we could save people the money and the headache. I think that there's already enough stopgaps in place where if races are within a certain percentage, there's recounts and there's opportunities and things like that to ensure that the proper winner is getting into office. But to try to turn our government into a 100% democracy and take away the whole notion of how we are supposed to be governed seems a little cumbersome. So I wish you really a lot of luck, not only with the runoff race, but as you move forward. I have every confidence that you will indeed win this runoff as well. But as you move forward in your role, that maybe you can help the city evaluate that and serve the public there by reevaluating the necessity for this type of thing.
That'll take a charter change, and a charter change takes the vote of the people. And I do want to have a committee formed at the new year to look at what other charter changes need to be considered.
Yeah, 20 years is quite a while for an update. And a lot has happened in the last 20 years as well.
Well, Brighton's double the size.
Yeah. Yeah.
For one, so.
Yeah, I mean, as rapidly as it's growing and the changes you guys have seen, it's probably a review of that's probably necessitated anyway. So, well, I just want to remind people a couple things. If you live in Brighton, if you know someone that lives in Brighton, whatever it is, please remind them and help them understand that, yes, we haven't all lost our minds. We are asking you to vote again. You're going to get another ballot, so please vote again. It's important to get good voter turnout. Otherwise, it does kind of defeat the entire purpose of having this sort of runoff. And then also I want to encourage anybody watching to please reach out to Greg and help him over. How many more weeks do you have, Greg, before the
3 weeks?
So we have 3 weeks to get the message out. Part of this is educating people. Part of this is getting out and continuing the campaign for Greg and reminding people to vote again so that we can make sure that the true winner of this race does eventually get back into office. And so if you have a few minutes to help canvass with Greg or call with Greg, I really encourage you to get a hold of him and help out with that. It's just so important, and if for no reason other than to educate people about what's going on there and make sure the voice of the folks in Brighton are being heard. So, Greg, go ahead and let people know what we can do to help and how to get a hold of you and all that good stuff.
While it's going to be 3 weeks till the actual election day, people are going to start getting their ballots next week, probably by Thanksgiving. So It is critical. And I've been out there. I was out canvassing tonight till at least an hour past sundown. But the weather's been nice, so it hasn't been a big deal to do that. But if you would like to be involved, please, I would take your help. Come out and canvass with me any afternoon or all day Saturday. I'm out there doing this. You can come to my website, Gregory4Brighton.com. It's the number 4 in there. So Gregory, the number 4, Brighton.com. I have an email. You can email me at Gregory4Brighton@gmail.com. I have a campaign phone number of 720-634-6954. Call me up. And if you'd like to come out and help, I had a few people come out this past Saturday and go out with me. And it's very simple. You're going out, we're knocking doors and saying, look, there's going to be a runoff election. I know you feel like you just voted, and we all did, but we got to do this again. So I appreciate your support in this. And so And that's what I'm doing. I'm just getting the word out, letting them know about me. Here's my flyer. Please consider me as you get another ballot. The ballot drop box is 24 hours over at the city hall, and you got to go get it dropped off. Don't mail it. There's been so many issues with a post office. It took 4 weeks for one time for me to get something from the post office. So just go drop it off right away, fill it out, and go get it done. The only thing on the ballot is the mayor. 2 people. I'm on the top of the ticket. Just fill in the oval, put it in the envelope, go put it in the drop box. Go get it done.
Not just for this race, folks, but just want to reiterate this across the board. Do not mail your ballot for anything ever. There's just too much room for error there. If you can't vote on election day and you want to drop your ballot off, at least drop it in a secured box. Yes. In a lot of circumstances, and I don't know about this, but can people drop it off at the clerk's office as well? Or is there a box there right in the clerk's office, or where do they have to go?
So at City Hall, for specifically the Brighton City Hall, there's a drop box right in front of the City Hall. So they're just going to lead you out there anyway. And it's 24 hours. There's a camera on there. So if someone starts monkeying with it, we got people on video. Somebody actually on election day this past November 2nd stuck one of my flyers on there. I didn't do it, but there's a camera showing whoever did it. So I don't know what they're doing about it, but it wasn't me. You can't legally do that, obviously.
Yeah.
But, please go do that.
It's nice to feel people. It's not, at least it's complimentary. That's nice to feel people are supporting you.
It is, but it makes me look bad because it makes it look like that I'm doing something illegal. And I'm just trying to keep it all right, do it all right, put signs where it's legal, not on city property, like my opponent has done in some areas. And just do it right, follow the rules. That's why we're in this runoff. We're following the current rules. If those rules need to be changed, we'll consider that this next round.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, so again, don't go into the clerk's office, drop your ballot off, stay away from the mail. Not that our USPS staff aren't great folks. They are, and we can count on them. I often say that the post office is one of the only very few places in our lives that most people have faith, right? Now I'm aging myself because we used to lick a stamp.
Me too.
And put it on the envelope. We threw it in this little blue box, and then by magic, it would go to the place that we wanted it to go. And of course, it is not by magic. It's by the hard work of postal service workers, but they are inundated right now too. And like many other places, they're understaffed and things like that. And so we just don't want to take a risk with something as important as voting. So
completely agree.
Anyway, well, I want to thank you again, Greg, for being on tonight. Again, go to Brighton.com. Check out his website. Make sure you vote. Tell everybody who you know that's in Brighton to vote in the runoff. We have about a week, so he really needs your help getting the word out there. And the other thing that I really hope everyone takes away from this is that normal, everyday citizens who are working, who have kids, who have families, can step up and serve. This is not something that is insurmountable. This is not something that you have to have millions of dollars to run for mayor or city council in your town. A lot of people do this without tremendous amounts of money to campaign. And next week, we're going to be having a couple other candidates that ran this year for city council and school board talking about just being a candidate. I want to talk a little bit tonight about the local leadership and the importance of that. And then next week, we're going to share some information about being a candidate and really what that feels like, what it's like. It's work. It is definitely work. I'm not trying to downplay it at all. And serving is work. But I think that oftentimes people feel like it's way too big for me, or they feel like, oh my gosh, I don't have any experience in politics. Nobody who gets into politics the first time has experience in politics. And local leadership, especially, really requires people who understand business, who are connected to their community, who understand the spirit of servant leadership and how we should be serving our communities, who are willing and able to collaborate. Like when you said that your council, you guys are able to achieve great things because you really work well together, and that requires the spirit of collaboration on the part of the people on that council. So being able to negotiate, being able to understand when it's important to agree or disagree, all of those things are the types of skills that are required for local races like school boards and city councils, mayoral races, those types of things. You don't have to have been a politician or know everything about politics to get in and be effective local leader. Would you say that's accurate, Greg?
Very accurate. I challenge everyone to contact their own council representative and ask them how they got involved. They probably just did it out of a whim.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of times I think that's the case. And some people will spend a lot of, some people will raise money and spend money on them, and some people will spend very little money. And a lot of times, and I think this is the case for a lot of people. I think a lot of people get involved because they just finally feel the spirit of wanting to serve. But sometimes there's some people get involved because they're irritated. They don't like the way things have been going, or they don't like what's been happening. And, I always say, be the change that you want to see. If you are unhappy with something that's going on, again, in your town or with your schools or whatever it might be, the best way to remedy that is to sit on the couch and complain about it. No, that's not right. The best way to remedy that is get off the couch, go run, go support a candidate, go get on a board or a commission. Maybe being mayor is not for everybody, but I'm sure in the city of Brighton, like many others, you guys have other boards and commissions that people can volunteer to be on.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that. I learned recently our planning commission had a vacancy for so long because it was like a district specific vacancy that they have not been able to fill. That is such an easy thing to go serve on, people. And you're involved with planning in your city. Go apply for a board of commissions if you don't want to run for council.
Yeah. Yeah. Because community boards and commissions advise councils and mayors and the governing bodies. So if you don't like how many streetlights you have or don't have, or how much congestion you have, or how many businesses are going in, or the way things are being put together, the planning commission's a great place to be. So, well, all right. Well, I want to wrap up for the evening. Again, go to justdefy.org. Click on Small Donor Committee. Click that button and say, yes, I will donate $50 to help some candidates in 2022. Please make that donation. We'd really appreciate it. Also, get over to Greg's website, gregoryforbrighton.com, and help him out as he's getting into this race. And then last but not least, get off the couch and get on a board, a commission, or challenge yourself to run for office. All right. Thanks so much. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.